Hi everyone. Today we're going to have a fun class, ABC of NeuroArt, and we're going to be studying very basics and look at the differences between NeuroGraphica and NeuroArt. What makes this whole difference, right? I've been teaching some classes in Russian, and I had a high demand from people English speaking. They were asking me to do another class in English. So I'm always happy when people ask me to do certain classes. So I said, that's it, I'm doing it in April. I think it's a great opportunity for everyone to get familiar and start drawing. We're going to do something very simple tonight. So no worries, no stress whatsoever. We're going to do very, very simple stuff today. Just to give you a taste of NeuroArt and differences between NeuroArt and NeuroGraphica. But first, I want to welcome you to very first American School of NeuroGraphica, NeuroGraphica Americas. We do have a slide that we usually share, all of us, before our classes. I'd like to share the slide to welcome you and to just to let you know that this school exists, that we're looking for expansion. We're going to bring more teachers. Hopefully more people are going to learn about us around the world. We're teaching in both languages right now, English, Russian, but we plan on adding more languages as we grow. And it is our first semester, spring semester of 2019. Then we're going to break for summer. Maybe we're going to do some fun stuff during summer. And then we're going to come back in September for the fall semester of this year. So NeuroGraphica Americas, it's a school of creative and transformative art. Most of members are instructors of NeuroGraphica, but we also welcomed artists, and also we welcomed coaches who are willing to work with us and kind of bring some fresh ideas and some different perspectives, not only NeuroGraphica, right? Although NeuroGraphic is a whole complete system, but for us, it's important to cover more and beyond NeuroGraphica. So everyone feels engaged, and we're looking at certain aspects that maybe the subject of interest for some of you. So I'm going to switch back to my to my space, and we're going to start, right? I'm going to switch to my drawing board, so we're not wasting any more time. I mean, it's just nice to know who we are. So specifically for people who don't know and join for the first time, and I know a lot of you are watching and recording, so we want you to be comfortable and confident that you're getting this information from a valuable source, that from instructors of NeuroGraphic, certified teachers, not just from someone who watched YouTube a couple of hours and think that they can teach. And we have people like that as well. All right, so let me switch to the drawing board so we can start drawing and talking. And I'm pretty sure you are ready to draw with me. You prepared your mixed media paper, your markers, and your pencils, so we can all have fun together and then share in the group. So let me just switch quickly to another camera right here. And we're going to start drawing, and we're going to start talking, right? So with NeuroArt, what makes it so special? What's the difference between just a regular art and NeuroArt? First of all, the whole difference is neurographic line. And if you're not familiar what neurographic line is, it is a very specific line that goes to the direction that we don't expect it to go, right? It just goes like a river, like a crown of the tree, and it flows. It doesn't create any patterns, and it just ends somewhere that we don't expect it to end. So something like that really makes the whole difference, because drawing those lines, creating a certain flow that the other creations of art, probably They may have the elements of Neurographica, but the whole NeuroArt is based on, first of all, on the line, right? And that's how we draw the line. Usually we go much slower, is because I have a lot of experience in that, drawing this line, so I go kind of fast. But for beginners, I would recommend the pace should be like really, really, really slow. Do not rush the process, you know, and the slower you go, the better you're going to feel and sense neurographic line and its qualities, right? So when we create this kind of flow, right, immediately it brings us in some sort of meditative mode, right? If I'm going to continue drawing those lines more and more and more and more, I'm going to get in certain meditative mode. It's going to give me the sense of flow, of well-being. I'm going to start flowing together with those lines. And that's what we want to preserve in the drawings that we make. We really want to have that sense of the flow. We really want to keep every object that we create as a NeuroArt object. We want to keep that sense of flow, not only on the background, but also within the object. And we're going to be drawing, as I said, very simple objects, flowers and fruits, you know, just to give you an idea what exactly we expect from NeuroArt look like, right? Some people may argue with me and say, well, there are no certain rules for NeuroArt. That's true, there are not. But if you want to be successful with NeuroArt, then you really want to keep everything in a flow. And you don't want to have static objects. Although the object can be static, but there is a way to activate it and to make it more fluid than it is. And that's what we're going to be discussing, all right? So another thing that I want to quickly show for people who had never been introduced to Neurographica, we do use the concept of rounding when we see certain lines crossed, or if the line crosses with the object, let's say circle, we're using the concept of rounding on the crossings point. So if you take a look, we see crossing here, and then we're using very special method of rounding by kind of like drawing half circles. Like this one's the one that I'm drawing right now, they're not visible. But what we're trying to do here is like partially with the part of the circle to create that feeling of rounding between the objects on the crossing points, right? So to make it looking in a bigger scale, right? So you have two crossings. All you do is basically using half of the circle here, half of the circle, or 1/3 of the circle, 1/3 of the circle, and another one, right? First you do that, and then you color inside. Then you color inside, and you try to make it as neat as possible. If something is not really coming out neat, you can always thicken the line and make the line very nice and neat and work very well together with the rounding. I just want to give these ideas to everyone who's not familiar and watching and recording mostly, because I know people who attend, I believe all of you know how neurographic pattern looks like. All right, so let me switch to another page where we're going to start drawing. And please draw with me together. You don't have to do exactly the same drawing as I do. Some people may choose to do that, which is totally fine. You may draw your own object. Just my idea is to give you conceptually what makes the difference between NeuroArt and Neurographica. So once you grasp this idea, then you could just take any static object and convert it into NeuroArt using, again, the line and certain simple shapes. If you want to start from something very simple, then you could just use certain simple shapes that will give you a good perspective on how you're going to develop further, right? And what I want to do today, I want to draw fruits and maybe flowers. We'll see how it goes, right? I want this to be creative. And, you know, with Neurographica, we never know how the end product is going to look like. We always go with the flow, and it, you know, the process never stops. That's the beauty about Neurographica, because you can always add more paper on the edges of your drawing and continue your drawing, right? So that's the beauty of this. And that this sense we really want to preserve. So you don't look at your drawing and it's kind of like enclosed in like kind of like a cage, and you don't even see outside of this. So we always know that quantum potential exists beyond the points of your drawing. So by extending your drawing, you can always add some other things, and it can grow infinitive. It can be, yeah, I know people drawing neurographic trees. They just using huge formats, and sometimes it's still not enough. They adding more paper and more paper to extend it. That's the beauty of Neurographica. That's why I love it so much. The sense of expansion, the sense of the fluidity of this, right? The movement. That's what makes NeuroArt beautiful. So why don't we just start kind of drawing? And I'm going to be doing it out of really totally out of my imagination. And you should do too. And you don't have to fully repeat after me. You draw whatever you would like to draw. I know, like in Russian class, there was a lady who was drawing an eye of the horse. That's what she's chosen to draw, and it came out really beautiful. So you could do whatever you want, but if you would choose to follow me, please do so as well. So, all right. So why don't we start with something simple as an apple, right? And this is a fun way to draw with your kids. We know that apple is almost like a circle, right? It's almost like a circle. It has the shape, right? And it has like kind of like stem here and a little leaf, right? So I drew the actual object. Like if you're drawing with kids, then you know how the object could look like, right? I just did that. But then, look, here's what I want to do. I want to activate this. And how would I activate an object in Neurographica? And NeuroArt is the same way. I'll add neurographic line. I'll just put neurographic line throughout the whole object, and maybe even starting extending it into the background, right? And I'll continue doing that. That's how I activate it. So immediately it starts to vibrate. We're converting object from a static object into NeuroArt. And we could do similar thing here, right? And you could see already, it is a moving object. It's not a static object anymore. And here's what I'm gonna do next. I'm gonna add another line here. And probably I would do another line right here, okay? And we know once we added lines, we can always round them. We don't have to wait until we finish the whole drawing. We could round the crossings, and we know when we have a pointy objects like triangles, and this one has a triangle form right at the end. We really need to round the spike right here at the top, so it doesn't really create the sense of being like some objects poking you. You don't really want to get to that. Everything should be rounded. Then it gives a pleasant impression. All right. All right. So we've done the first one. So now let's draw a pair. And objects can totally cross. We know that in Neurographica. Objects can totally cross. Here's a pair. And also, it has a stem, it has a leaf. And we can do the same thing here. So now we're going to activate again. We're going to activate a pair. You see how simple it is when you start and you really want to get trained on this and get a sense. How does it feel when I'm drawing neural line on top of the object? Do you get that sensation of the movement? Do you get the sense of vibration, right? You really need, it's very hard to explain what it is. Once you experience it, you totally understand that. And then by extending certain parts, right, right away, you're really working together with the flow and with the background, right? Because what you're trying to do, you're trying to embed your objects into background. At the end, background should always communicate well with everything what you are drawing. So here we see the crossing. So what I do, some people would argue with me and say, why do you need to cross? It's in NeuroArt. You see, it's beautiful when everything in the NeuroArt drawing is kind of connected, all the objects connected, the same way as they are connected in neurographic pattern. It's always nice when in the NeuroArt we kind of experience the same sensation of all the objects being part of the whole and are not only connecting with each other, but also connecting with the whole field that we're working on, right? So background, at the end, we don't want to feel like, oh, we have a background and objects on top of the background, because I can draw here thousands of apples from very small ones to large ones, thousands of pairs, and the whole background is going to become those objects, right? So this kind of feeling we want to preserve, that we don't have a separation between object and the background. And we are moving towards that. We're not there yet, but let's try to move further. And let's add another object. Let's add kiwi. And kiwi is very easy to add, right? It's a novel, basically. And again, what you need to do, you need to activate the subject. And maybe you want to do some extension. Again, your hand should really work in the way you feel. Like you feel, I was feeling like drawing this line upward, right? So you go with your intention, you go with the impulse. You don't think like, should I do this line here? Or maybe I should extend my line over here. That way you're really getting yourself into stress mode. Here, the whole idea is to get out of stress, right? Why people would do this kind of work? They want to distress themselves, number one, right? They want to get into calmness and creativity and fun. Specifically, when you work with your children and grandchildren, such an easy and fast way to get away from the stressful day or some disturbing thoughts by doing this kind of work. So please don't overthink. Draw your lines wherever you feel like drawing. You know, it has to be really, really intuitive how you feel on filling up the space around the object, right? Let's do more. Let's do more lines, okay? So we're going to kind of get more fluidity here, and then we're going to add more objects to that. So we're activating, and look, the lines can go up and down. They can go from one corner to another corner diagonally. The lines can go any way. They can go across, right? Just like that, it goes across. It creates that fluidity. And then apparently we would need to round all the crossings, but we haven't finished the drone. Let's just continue with the drone, right? Let's add something else. So let's add a tangerine. Let's add a tangerine here. You know, also like almost oval shape, a little bit squashed on both sides. But again, it's going to look all beautiful. Just imagine greenish kiwi, orangey and yellow pear, maybe greenish red apple. It's also colorful. Already I see the colors, right? I already sense them. And again, what I'm going to do, I'm going to activate my object with Neuroline. And I'm going to extend it. I'm going to extend it, you know. When I'm drawing, and I don't know if you're familiar with my artwork, I'm really fascinated by Indian gods, and I'm fascinated with illustration. Like I created a couple of illustrations, one for a mermaid story and another one for Arabian Night, the dance of Scheherazade. I'm always fascinated with that fluidity. I'm getting sense out of it. When I'm adding lines, I am getting attuned to the spirit of what I'm drawing. And in this case, like I already started to feel kinesthetically the taste of the fruits that I'm drawing, right? I really like my mouth became watery, and I kind of started feeling the essence of those beautiful fruits that I'm drawing. So now, why don't we add some flowers here, you know, fruits and flowers. And again, what is the flower? The flower is mostly, the petals are mostly triangles, right? And it's so easy to draw. You know, when we were little kids, probably specifically girls, always would love to draw some flowers, because flowers always bring sense of happiness, ease. And I'm just drawing some, not any particular flower, but something that um, easy, right, to draw in the beginning, because again, we only have 1 hour of fun today. So we don't really want to overcomplicate anything. So, and you shouldn't too, because if that's the first time you're doing your art, you really want to start with something very simple. You don't really want to complicate. You see how everything already started kind of moving around. Um, I don't know if you feel the same way as I do, but the idea here, when you're going to be drawing your ideas, right? Let's say, I don't know if you plan to illustrate, if you plan to do some other work, maybe abstract NeuroArt. NeuroArt doesn't have to be object driven, it could be totally abstract. And I know beautiful, I've seen beautiful drawings, totally abstract. Whatever it is, you really need to get attuned to the essence of what you're drawing. Because when we just draw without being kind of connected, without feeling what we're doing, we may lose the sense of why we're doing it, and maybe not to have as much fun as we have once we get attuned. So let me just do some rounding to see where we are with all of this or whatever we're doing, right? And as I said, kinesthetically, it's so nice kind of like get attuned to the spirit of what you do. Like if I'm drawing Scheherazade, I really want to kind of sense how she feels when she dances, right? If I draw a suffering mermaid, I really want to feel her pain. I want to, because otherwise I'm not going to be able to draw it. It's going to be maybe beautiful, but it's not going to speak to people when they're going to look at this drawing. So here it's not as important to get attuned when you're doing your fruits, but with something more complex, I would suggest that you draw something that you really care about. Um, and again, it could be object driven or totally abstract, doesn't matter. Maybe you want to draw your emotions, maybe you want to send some messages through your drawing. It doesn't matter what it is, the concept is still the same, right? We don't follow certain rules here. It's not an algorithm, it's an art. So what makes it NeuroArt in this case, that is, we are really, I'm going to add another flower, that we are drawing something free form, and then we're converting it into kind of like a neurographic pattern. That's the whole idea. We're not following, again, to any algorithms. And again, are there any specific rules for this? No specifics, because nobody set the rules for NeuroArt. Your NeuroArt can look totally the way you feel it. But you know, what you really want to work through and get kind of get an impression for people that this is NeuroArt. It's not just an art, but people should look at this and say, oh my God, it's a NeuroArt. Specifically people who are familiar with Neurographica. They should recognize that as NeuroArt. Because if they don't, then it's not NeuroArt, it's something else, right? And what it makes NeuroArt, again, the rounding, the lines, right? And certain rules that reinforce that everything is connected, everything is a pattern, right? We don't just leave objects hanging around your drawing. Everything gets into connectivity mode. You see that? You see, like this petal right now, it's not connected to anything. I would not leave it. Seriously, I would just connect it to a pear in this case and just round it. Why? Because I don't like to see anything sticking out in my NeuroArt. I really like everything, whatever is sticking right now, it's the same one, to be connected to either another line or to an object that sits next to that. And then we're getting really interesting, impressive work done. Look, already we have this feeling, right? You could sense it. I'm sure you can. And again, like if you don't feel enough, right? Like here, for example, we do have like probably 1/3 of the circle. Why not to finish it? Let's just finish it. Just like that, right? Let's just finish it. It could be like a little plum or something, right? It could be a little plum or something. And that's how, you know, when you draw something in free form, the pattern dictates sometimes what would really look nice in order to balance the whole composition, right? And here also, I feel like I have to add something to balance it. What could it be? I guess I just add another flower. Why not, right? And you could add whatever you want to your drawing to balance out the composition. So we're watching the composition, so nothing really feels like it's falling down. Everything should make sense, right? And again, you just need to activate. Here it's not activated. Sometimes I jump from one object to another just to make sure everything works fine. Here I'm doing my rounding, and here I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to just round things and activate. There is no specific order. You're just doing that free form, free flowing form. And again, you know, for me, it's important here to keep the sense of NeuroArt, that everything is kind of like interconnected. Everything creates that combined kind of impression, not just like you're looking at the whole drawing and you get a sense of the whole drawing instead of just looking at each particular object on your drawing. So what you could do to practice, you could start drawing something simple like butterflies or maybe snails, you know, snail on the flower, something like that. It would give a good practice just to make sure that you're getting and you getting sense of how you're going to color your work. Sometimes, you know, when I'm doing my NeuroArt, I don't even know, like I do my drawing and then I don't know how I'm going to color it. I have no idea. I start with one color and then I don't like it that much. And what do? I just, you know, use another color to make it multicolor, right? And until I get to the point I'm fully satisfied, I can't stop. And I suggest for you to do the same thing, just experiment. You don't have to overthink the process. And again, overthinking kills the whole fun part of it. And the whole idea is to have fun here, right? Until we're ready to do a real art and start working on something bigger than just objects and catching the essence of fruits and flowers, right? So I hope you're drawing with me. I hope you're getting the sensation and the fun part. If you feel like it's fun, you could put a plus sign to me so I know that I see it, that you guys getting there, you're catching it, and you're really having fun with this type of work. What I like about NeuroArt, it really pulls you away from thinking, do I do this right? Right, an algorithm of removing inner limitations, a very strict algorithm. We always think, do I do it right? Awesome, yeah, awesome, guys. Thank you. I see your pluses. In those ones, you know, in the strict algorithms, we have to follow certain rules. And not only in the algorithm of removing inner limitations, also in some other ones that we know, like neuromandala, for example, right? Some other ones that we study, there are rules. Here, the rules are so simple. First, you need to get to that kind of like in the flow mode, in the fun mode. And you can always double your neural line, right? Remember, it doesn't have to be single. It can be totally doubled or even tripled sometimes to create an impression of the thickness, right? Some lines could be thicker, some lines could be thinner. And what I've seen, some people, what they're doing, they using different size of the marker. Like I took the universal size of the marker, but you could do some lines thicker, some lines thinner. You can create a multi-dimensional impression by doing that. So I encourage you to work on that multi-dimensional drawing whenever you're ready to start doing it. You know, some people really like to get comfy first. And then they can start an experiment, and then they can actually come up with something more complex. So why am I doing today fruits and flowers? Because it's a springtime. It's a springtime. It's getting warmer. Sorry. And I really want to kind of catch this essence of springtime where everything is blooming, where we're getting fresh flowers in the house and we're getting nice fresh fruits. And everything looks much brighter and better than during the winter times. So for me, it's kind of like, yay, let's celebrate springtime. It's about time to do that. So you see what I'm doing, right? I'm making sure that everything, whatever I've done so far, is rounded, all the crossings. And remember, you can add as many lines as possible. As many lines as possible. And in NeuroArt, I would also encourage you not to create mosaic effect. For ones who know algorithm of removing inner limitations, what we're saying that the whole idea of neurographic pattern is to create large figures. And we first create large figures with the drawing, and then we connect them, and then we connect everything with the background to the point where we don't know where the actual object and where's actual background, right? Everything gets mixed up. I would encourage you to do totally the same thing here. So that we follow this rule as well. And again, you can triple, double lines. You can do whatever you want with the lines, you know. You see, like I just tripled the line just to give you an idea. And you know, if certain spots feel kind of empty, you can always add another object. Why don't I add maybe a sun? You know, the spring sun that actually brings all the joy and happiness, and everything is going to happen in the sunlight, right? Right away, everything probably start going to look brighter. Once you added a sunshine to your drawing, it becomes a much brighter drawing altogether. And I continue rounding. See how simple it is? I don't have to really. And if you feel that your object is not vibrating, add more line. Add more line to this. So it does, it vibrates. Nice. You see what we created? Kind of like when you're knitting, right? When you're knitting, you're creating a scarf or sweater. It's kind of the same concept that you are knitting your drawing. You are adding more petals. You are adding more stuff here, and everything is interconnected. And you know, I'm a little bit obsessed about rounding. I know some teachers are saying, specifically when we do modeling, right? Some teachers are saying you don't really have to get obsessed with rounding everything. And when we're doing NeuroArt, there are no rules for that, right? You can just leave it like that. But then I always feel like if I really want to do NeuroArt, I really want it to look as much as possible as NeuroGraphica, right? So if something is not rounded, it bothers me really. It gives me a sense that it's incomplete. It gives me the sense of it's sticking out, that it's not really a part of this whole drawing. It's kind of like foreign to this whole pattern. So I try, like whatever I see on my drawing, I try to round. And if I miss something, I can always catch up, right? Like here, I missed a little bit and I missed here. I'll catch up and I'll round it up. So here we are, okay? And now, once you complete your rounding, and please remember, you can always add lines at any point. If you feel like, oh God, no, I don't have enough lines. I didn't get to that flow with just that amount of lines. Then you can always add more lines. It doesn't matter, right? I can just add one more line here, right? The more lines you add, the better your drawing is gonna look. That's the number one of Neurographica. There is never too many lines, never. It can be just few lines, right? That usually we tell beginners, right? That when you start doing Neurographica, not you, but beginners, when they start doing it, they usually have a tendency to do like few lines, and then they feel like, oh my God, I have too much. It's normal. It's normal, totally, not to be worried at all. But then when people get hooked on Neurographica, they sometimes even go crazy with the amount of lines they're trying to draw. And for the experiment's sake, right? I've done that. I've done like a gazillion amount of lines and I rounded everything, all the crossings, just to see if I'm going to get frustrated. Because you may get easily frustrated and say, oh my God, I have too many lines. I have to do all the crossings. I have to do this and that. So I just wanted to test myself and see, will I get frustrated? No, I didn't. And I was very happy with that. I'm like, I can do this type of work whole day. Leave me alone and I will do this work whole day. I have no problem rounding and adding lines and rounding again. That's the beauty of Neurographica, that when you get to this mode, you're there. You are there. But if you're still getting frustrated with the idea that you need to do rounding so much, it's okay. But with practice, you're going to lose that sensation that, oh, I'm frustrated. No, you're totally going to be, okay, I'm going to do as many roundings as it requires. And you're not going to be scared with the fact that you need to add another line or you need to maybe thicken certain lines. You're not going to get scared at all. You see how beautiful it is already? You know, just imagine something like this to be put on the wall or to do, I don't know, just think about it, like it could be something that is done on a plate, on a mug. Gloria, I see you said me too, so you're not frustrated, right? Did I understand you right, that you're not getting frustrated when you round? Just say yes or no, so I know. And if you get frustrated, it's okay, we're gonna work on that. Oh yeah, awesome, yeah, nice to see that. All right, so it's time to start coloring, right? And here we also can get creative in the way we're doing it, right? The fruits, it's easy because we already kind of have an idea how we're going to color them, right? Because we know that tangerine is probably orange, right? And I'm going to start with tangerine. I'm going to just start doing it. And, you know, slowly. Very important not to rush in this process because you really want your work to look nice and neat. You really want to get the sensation that everything has a smell, right? Since you're drawing fruits, then I'm coloring my tangerine right now, and I already started to feel the sense of the taste of tangerine. It's beautiful. The essence of that, the lightness, the juiciness of the fruit. is nice. And you can always make one side a little bit darker, right? Just to create this kind of 3D feeling, right? So it's not so flat. You can make one side or like around a little bit. So it's a little bit, it has a value. It has kind of like 3D standout effect. All right, so I've done that. So now let me do an apple. And for me, it's going to be kind of like a yellowish green apple. That's what I'm going to do. I feel like it's going to work nicely with the rest of the drawing. And I'm going to start coloring that. And here you can get really creative with the pencils. You start with one color, then you can add some maybe darker colors. You may add some different shading. Here it's really up to you how you're going to do it. I just started with kind of a lighter green, right? And now I'm going to switch to a darker green, just to get that feeling and sensation of how colors mix. It makes me really happy, to be honest with you, when I see how well sometimes colors mix and they create a third color when they're mixing. You see that? I'm going on top and I already see how my colors are mixing. It's like a light green, and then I'm adding some darker green of the different shade of green. And it gives me already that feeling that the object that I'm coloring is, it's not just a flat object. It has a shape and it has a shading. Um, and I'm trying to be neat, right? I'm not trying to create something that would give me uncomfortable sensation. I really want it to look nice and neat. And now I can add some yellow. And again, I'm doing it totally intuitively. I'm not overthinking the process, right? I'm just doing it intuitively, the way I feel. You know, when I have a feeling, okay, now I'm satisfied, then I stop coloring. Okay, and it feels like here I'm done with this. So now I'm gonna color a plum. I'm gonna start using something of this color, right? We know it's purple, and I'm gonna start with light purple, and I'm gonna add more of the purple on top of that. I'm gonna do some shading. You see, when we're doing shading like that, it gives that nice feeling that the object is not really flat. It stands out immediately. But again, in the abstract painting, you can really, or drawing, you can do whatever you want. Nobody can tell you how you should color or what your choice should be. You really do it intuitively. I'm going to add some bluish kind of color just to give a feeling that it is a plum. And imagine working with kids again, like if you have kids or grandchildren. For them, it's a great way of getting introduced to Neurographica, because kids sometimes don't have enough of patience to go through the process, and they don't feel like finishing sometimes. That was my understanding when I worked with kids. They like to finish as fast as possible. I'm going to color kiwi. They'd like to finish as it's a little bit blue. I'm going to change it. Not a problem. Kids want to finish as soon as possible. So the only way to make kids to really have fun with Neurographica is to do some light NeuroArt with them. They really like, I've done some classes with kids, and one of them was recent in December. Well, not so recent anymore, but that was the most recent one. I've done in December at Antinanka Earth School, and kids really love drawing the Christmas tree. That's what we've been drawing, Christmas tree. And it was kind of fast, and they got really satisfied with the effect of that. And then at the end, they really enjoyed the fact that they had something, they created something unusual. So look what I'm doing. I'm doing some brown on top of that. It's a brown color, because we know kiwi is not as green as an apple, or so we have to really bring it to the point where it looks more like a kiwi. All right, and you see the objects are crossing. You can choose to overlap colors on the crossings, or you could just, for me, tangerine is on top of an apple, but you could kind of cross the colors together so they kind of see through each other, which is totally fine in this case, right? And I'm gonna color pair. I'm gonna use like a little bit, my pair is gonna be a little bit more colorful. And in this case, I'm going to overlap just to give you an example of overlapping. You see, I'm overlapping of the parrot color on top of the green apple, just to illustrate the way that you could totally overlap if you wish. So I'm going to do some brownish color here, and I'm going to add yellow, so my pair is going to look multicolored. And add some yellow. We could see that our pear is really ripe and ready to go, to be eaten by us. Okay, you see that? Already is getting the whole thing kind of looking nice together. And now we have a sun. I want to add some sun. And then we have to color leaves. For people who haven't touched drawing for a long time, some people who come to study with me or who come to study with other teachers in our school, they telling us, oh, we haven't touched pencils or markers for a very, very long time. And I believe them because, why would they? Right? Unless they have grandkids or they're watching those grandkids, like why would they even considering drawing? Because we all have busy lives, right? Our lives are busy. And of course, the last thing we think about is drawing, unless we really have a really huge passion for this. But for people who's like been drawing last time somewhere in high school or even before that, they question it. And they're like, I really question whether or not I should be drawing because I don't believe I can draw well. But that's the way to kind of unfold, kind of overcome the feeling that, oh, no, I cannot do that. I cannot. Everyone can. Absolutely everyone. I have that strong belief. I'm getting to the flowers and I'm going to start kind of like coloring them. And I just want to see what color to use. I started with this bluish green color, but we'll see how it's going to come out. Yeah, it looks nice. I like that. And again, you don't have to make them real. It could be flowers from the fairy tale as well. So it doesn't have to be something that really exists in the real life. So as long as you're satisfied, as long as you have fun, as long as you feel that there is no pressure here, right? As long as you feel like, oh my goodness, I'm having fun. That's the most important part here. But with more complex drawings, right? Like if you really have a dream of drawing something, like I had a dream. I always wanted to draw a mermaid, and I didn't want to draw a sweet, beautiful mermaid. I want to draw her at the moment where she's losing her tail and her legs are coming out and she goes through this whole suffering and pain and losing her voice, and her father is watching her in pain as well. I really wanted to catch up with the point of transformation when I was drawing it. And then I could relate to this. I could bring some other ideas into this drawing. How? By relating to that, by remembering my childhood and remembering how I used to suffer when I would fall in love and I would not get the same kind of feeling from the guy I used to fall in love. All of that is just the memories of the childhood, of the losing innocence, right? Because she's really losing innocence through her suffering, through whatever she needs to give up. And when you feel and when you relate to that, and believe me, then you would 100% be able to bring it on the paper. So it doesn't have to be only fun. It can, right now we're just having fun, right? Because we have only 1 hour. There's not much we can draw in 1 hour, just simple objects, and kind of talk about the differences between neurographic and neuroart. But if you really want to do something meaningful, I would suggest think about what really you want to draw. What is something you want to tell others? What do you want to share with the others so they could get the same kind of idea and feel what's going on in your drawing, right? And again, like Shikerizada, if she's dancing, I really want everyone to feel how much she enjoys that, how much she's into the dance. That's why I'm just encouraging you. If you're thinking seriously about your art, then that's the way to go. First practice, and then you could certainly do something meaningful. All right. You look how bright everything is coming out. And I'm looking at the screen, and on the screen it's not as bright. I don't know why, but maybe it's because it's an evening here in New York. But on my paper, it's like everything is just so bright. I'm going to share my drawing when I finish it in the group as together with the video, so everyone could see it. And you know what else I like here? Like, we really need to kind of incorporate everything with the background, right? So everything doesn't look like, well, we do have something right on the background that really is not engaged. So the background as important as everything else. You see, like I'm adding some pink just to have a different color. Pink is always nice. When we do fruits or flowers, pink always works great. And it works great with lilac and yellow color. Always looks nice and bright. But how do I know that? Was I trained on that? No. I know that from my experience of drawing for almost 2 years, actually 2 years. I started in March of 2017. I started drawing, and then I went through the trainings, and all right, so we had colored, let me just finish that one. We had colored most of the objects here. So now I want to create kind of nice feeling around this whole pattern that I created using objects, right? I want to have to add some shading maybe, right? What would I do? I would use the same colors as I'm using in my drawing. And again, intuitively, I would just start shading around fruit and flowers, right? So I started with pink because I felt like I really want to do something pinky here. I really would like to do that. I'd like to add some shading. You don't have to finish it up to the top, right? You're just adding shading so it blends well together with the white background here. And since I used it once, I want to use it somewhere else, and I'm going to be doing it here. I just add more here. I may wake up tomorrow and say, oh, I want to add more objects. I want to add probably something, maybe bluish flowers. That's fine, totally okay. And it's totally okay to make certain parts darker, even in the background, and certain parts lighter. Like, I really want to get that sensation of the flow, that everything is vibrating here, nothing is static, right? What else? Green is here. All right, fine. I'll add some green. See, I'm just mixing it, and I can even overlap a little bit, right? So they kind of blend. They blend together nicely. And I'm doing my shading here. And you don't have to do shading all over the place, right? I want to add some pink here. You could just do in several places, and that would be good enough. Doesn't have to be all over. I'll do some bluish here. But I'm sure you grasp the idea, right? That any static object can be converted into vibrating object by using neural lines. And then you got the idea about connecting, right? Rounding all the crossing points. You got the idea of creating patterns that everything that is presented in your drawing, so you're not losing sensation of the neurographic creation, right? So everyone who knows Neurographica, they should be able to identify your work as NeuroArt, not just art, because there are some other modalities in the world, and there are a gazillion of them. But people, by looking at this painting, they should be able to identify, not painting, but drawing. They should be able to identify it as NeuroArt. And then, you know, that's the idea. That's the idea. And the last one, maybe I'll add some more yellow here around the sun, because I want the sun to shine. I want the sun to shine. Just like that. And I'm going to blend a little bit around, kind of light up everything that goes on here. Maybe more sensation of glowing. You know, yellow, like what Pavel is saying, you cannot really spoil your drawing with the yellow, because yellow is always bringing that kind of like golden effect to the drawing. And there could be, you know, there's no way by adding yellow to spoil any drawing, because yellow would always give a sensation of beauty and shining, kind of shining impression of your drawing. All right, so that's about it. Look, we already created some nice, vibrant drawing. I hope you're going to show me what you've been working on in the group, post it, and describe how you felt during the practice. Did you catch the sensation of vibration, the essence of what you've been drawing? Have you been connected with colors that you were putting and overlapping, right? I'd like to know that. It would help me also to understand how I can improve and maybe tell you more about things. But now what I'm going to do, I'm going to switch back to the main screen, and you can ask me questions. Let me do that. I'm going to unmute all of you so you could ask me questions and tell me how you feel also. I'm curious. So I unmuted you. I know you stay muted. Do you have any questions for me, or maybe any feedback? I would greatly appreciate it if you do. All right. So I assume you're very busy with your drawing right now, because I know it's very hard to stop. For me,
no, I was muted. I was muted.
Oh, really? Yeah, I am.
Thank you very much.
Sure, Claudia. I'm so happy you joined us.
Yeah, it was very fun. I did your flow last days.
Oh,
It was a wonderful. It's amazing. Yeah.
thank you very much.
Yeah, and now yeah, it's a new style to create. I like it.
Yeah, it's very easy, and I think everyone can do it. Everyone.
Yeah,
Maybe more complex is hard, but something like that can be done easily.
yeah.
I hope to see you drawing in the group, Claudia.
Yeah, perhaps, but I didn't color it yet.
Okay.
It's only black and white.
That's fine. It can be black and white as well. It doesn't matter.
It's 1 o'clock in the morning.
Oh God.
In Vienna. Yeah,
Oh
and
my God, I so appreciate that you joined
yeah,
me such a
yeah,
long time.
I've been waiting until midnight.
Oh,
So,
how
yeah.
sweet of you.
I
It's so
think we
sweet of
color
you.
it tomorrow or the day after.
Did you have fun?
Yeah, yeah,
Awesome.
yeah.
Awesome.
But
That's
not
the idea.
a bit. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Thank
Nice.
you so much. Bye bye.
Sure. Absolutely. All right. So if nobody has any more questions, I wish everyone good night, right? Because we're also getting close to evening. It's almost 7, it's just 1 minute away. And please share with me your work. Yes, AB, I see your message. Thank you so much for joining from Canada. It's fantastic. We had international community today. It's awesome. All right, guys. Thank you so much. And I hope to see your work in the group posted with description. All right.
Thanks.
Bye now.
Bye.
Bye.